and turn the world on with a smile. You can take a nothing day and suddenly make it all seem worthwhile. When it's you, girl, and you should know it. With each glance and every little movement you show it. Love is all around, no need to fake it. You can never down, why don't you take it? You're gonna make it after all.
Hey everybody, it's me, Rose. It's been a couple of weeks here of heat, haze, and high anxiety, and high temperatures too, for that matter. That's where the heat comes in, because it's either been over 100 degrees or over 90 degrees. I don't know what that translates to your unit of measures. I apologize. I'm just talking about where I am in America. Did your skin just crawl hearing the words America? I know mine just did. Anyway, fuck me. Things are not good. Um, so yeah, it's been really, really hot, and there have been fires up in British Columbia, and we got their smoke down here, and plus we had some Oregon fires to give us some more smoke, and we had some California fires. Basically the whole West Coast was on fire. Different parts of the world decline in their own special ways, I guess. My goodness. Hello, four horsemen of the apocalypse. Um, the apocalypse are the least sexy lips of all. Can we just agree on that? Sorry. Okay, so yeah, it's been shitty because you know what? You know what sucks about heat, smoky fire weather? If you have asthma, that makes it a really not good experience. And then when you've got to take advantage of the fact that the temperatures dipped down below 70 to put fans in your windows to bring in the air to try to cool down your swampy, hot as shit apartment, that means you're just sucking in all that smoke and haze. And it's so you see it. Seriously, my apartment was hazy. It was not from weed smoke. It was from outdoor smoke. I cleaned off my bookcase in the living room this week and wiped it down. There was so much dirt, just dirt. It wasn't like normal human dust. This was like brown dirt, and as well as the regular human dust. It was humanity, all particleized across the top of my IKEA bookshelves, amongst my taxidermied squirrels and birds and my snow globe and my medical model and my mannequin head with cat eye sunglasses on it. She's so voguey. So yeah, and it was my birthday. I turned 54. Who cares? Nobody else did. I didn't. It was fucking hot as shit. I can't remember if I mentioned this before, but I was going to go to a whole bunch of different places that give out free shit for your birthday, like free waffles, free ice cream, free coffees, free Grand Slam breakfast. I was going to do it all. Just going to wander around, just not even spare change, and just taking advantage of the fact that I was fucking born. As if I had anything to do with it. As if I had a fucking choice in the matter. Face it. I think we all know that if I had had a choice in the matter 54 years ago, I would have opted out. Let's be very clear on that. Um, but that's neither here nor there. Um, so yeah, I was gonna go do all of those things. In fact, Spike and I were gonna go to do the Grand Slam breakfast, but it was too fucking hot. My skin would have caught on fire. Just no, no, no. Even though you're going to like an air conditioned place, you still have to get there. You still have to like wait for a bus in the sunlight. That's right, just the sunlight is enough for this vampire. And then you've got to deal with all the angry, miserable people on the bus because they're miserable from the fucking heat too. It's not just I who suffers, we all suffer. And they've all got knives. um, Still haven't had the machete with masturbation in the same tweet yet, I'm very sorry to say. Um, and Denny's would have been, that's right, Denny's, bragging, would have been air conditioned, but then you have to leave it again and then and then once you've had that cool, sweet comfort of air conditioning, going back outside in the natural disorder just feels even more miserable. So it's just best to stay home. So that's what I did. That's what I did on my birthday. I also, because of the fucking heat and smoke, I finally did what so many people, so many single people, so many people who live alone eventually do. That's right. I moved my bed into the living room. I'm sitting on it right now. That's right. Wiggling my butt. That's the sound of my butt wiggling. Yeah, I moved my bed into the living room because the way my bedroom is in this apartment, as if anyone cares, is it's in a corner and it gets the most sun at the second half of the day when it's the hottest, and it gets it all in there. And the way the room, how it opens into the hallway, there's no air circulation in there. It just stays trapped in that corner. Plus, that is also where the hot water heater is. So that makes it extra toasty warm. So pretty much every night I would wake up twice. I'd wake up at like 12:30, hearing my upstairs neighbor come into his bedroom when he would get home from work. And he's not being a dick. He's totally not being a dick at all. It's just how noisy the creaky boards are. And my body has gotten so used to it that I like wake up and that's when I pee. And and then I usually wake up again at around 3 o'clock in the morning, sweating like a pig, because that's when the humidity has started to set in and the lack of air circulation has become really evident in the bedroom, even with the fan going. It's not good. It's not good with the world of asthma. I do not want a repeat of last October, where I ended up in the hospital for 6 days because I didn't take care of myself well enough. So I'm being extra hyper vigilant or something, whatever. But yeah, whereas in the living room, that gets all the circulation. And it's also way quieter because it's not right off on the parking lot. Um, and and even though like all of that situation has improved a whole lot, it's still, my bedroom is still right there by the staircase where everybody comes and goes. And a couple of the neighbors, like the girls that lived next door to me, the ones that were taking pictures in my window where their visitor was, the girls next door seemed to be in a door slamming feud with the emo hipster kids that live upstairs from them. And I get it. Like they live, before those college girls had to live below that like noisy hippie family and their bratty kids. And now they've got to live below four hipster kids that have band instruments and boots. So they're just kind of thumping around and super noisy. So they're just slamming their doors constantly. And the end result of that is it shakes the fuck out of my bedroom wall. It's like really, like of all the rooms in the apartment, that's where it's so pronounced. And it's like, it just gets to be annoying like 6 times a day, you know? It's like, no justice, no peace, man. So yeah, so it's much quieter here in the living room with my bed, and it's much more private, um, which is really really kind of good given that like I said, my anxiety is running way high, much higher. You know, with Trump and everything, every day you just think like it can't get worse. It can't get, oh yes, it can. Like you were never waiting for the other shoe to drop because all the shoes are dropping all the fucking time. And I am really fucking tightly wound. It's awful. It's awful. There you go. I can't stop watching the news. This morning I was going to record this like hours ago, but then Barcelona happened. Another vehicular terrorist thing. As if I don't already jump out of my skin whenever I hear tires squealing here in my own city because I know some asshole's running a red light or something. It's like, fuck. And so now, when I can't turn away from the news, I can crawl in bed while I'm watching it it's so cozy watching the terrorism from my bed instead of a sofa. Although normally I do sit on the sofa, and I have the fucking chaise lounge, which my cat that's her bed now. She's curled up under the blankets. And I'm actually did turn off the news while I'm recording this, as if anybody cares. Instead, I'm watching a live performance of my favorite band because that cheers me up. Anyway, the other exciting thing about having my bed in the living room, look, it feels weird. I mean, I've resisted this urge for a long time. It's such a bachelor dude thing. It's just where you're like drinking beer and eating ham in your bed while watching ESPN, And it's like, I don't want to be that guy. Although none of those things are anywhere. I mean, I would eat ham and bacon for 'em, but those other two things, not going to happen. But it just seems like such a weirdo thing to do. I don't know why I have such a bias about the fact that I've done this. I didn't until I started talking about it again. Like once I decided to do it, I was like, man, this is living. Because here's what also is awesome. In my bedroom, when I woke up hot and sweaty, I couldn't just like pop open the window and pop the fan in and like let the air run because it's visible from the parking lot. So it's visible from anybody walking down the street. And it's just like, no, too vulnerable. Does not feel like a safe idea. But here in the living room, you don't see the windows from outside the complex, so you can't tell if I've got my fan in one, let alone two windows, which is what I can do now. And that's what helped me survive the heat wave. And again, I know, bring all the smoke into my apartment. I know, we discussed that already. And the other glamorous thing about it is instead of having a patio off of my living room, I now have a patio off of my bedroom. I know, doesn't it sound exciting? It's like I'm in a spa or something. It's pretty great. I'm sitting here in bed looking out my patio. One of my plants is starting to bloom. I didn't think it was gonna bloom. There you go. That's the excitement of having my bed in the living room. I've got a patio in my bedroom. And I also have two bookcases in this room, not just one. I've got two bookcases in this room. So it's got all my art books, my books for my book club, and then the books that I'm reading or have read. It's a pretty great world. Anyway, so yeah, and now what that means is my bedroom where all the noise and the slamming happens. That's my rose room. That's where I've got my computer desk and my standing mirror, which I'm theoretically going to start exercising in front of because I've got all sorts of floor space in there now because there's no bedroom. It's just my desk, my other bookcase, and my standing. Oop, there's those girls slamming the door. And my mirror standing there, and my closet full of vintage dresses. And I've got the windows there completely closed off. Like the curtains completely drawn, the blinds completely down, like my cat no longer has access to those windows. Like it's just a dead zone now. That whole battle that I fought is done. And even then it wasn't good enough for me. So now I don't know if that's making sense. But yeah, it's a little bit more fortressy, I guess. But it's nice because I feel like I don't know. I went through a lot in that room dealing with those fucking kids outside and all that shit that you've heard me talking about for over 2 years. And it just really, like I said, my anxiety is running really high with current affairs. And so yeah, whatever tiny little measures I can take to make myself feel better, that's what I'm doing. So yeah, but don't worry, my cat still has a window to climb up into. She can, the second bedroom is her bedroom basically. Her cat perch is right next to the window, and that window there has bushes and stuff in front of it. It's like higher up, there's like a little hill there, so it's not a window that anybody hangs out outside. So suddenly I just feel like I've got a lot more privacy. And I know you're probably thinking, well, why the fuck didn't you do that when you were having problems with your neighbors all the time? Because I couldn't, and here's why. Because when there's constant commotion outside my windows, then I have to constantly be where that commotion is and keep an eye on it. It's called hypervigilance. But now that there's not that commotion, that's why I was able to take away my camera, and that's why now I'm able to kind of close off those rooms the way I need to and then open them up the way I need to, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's a little bit of what's been going on the past couple of weeks. Oh, I should say that the parking lot still isn't free of commotion, because when I was doing all this furniture moving around and stuff, which I've got to say, I love rearranging furniture and making things look different. It's a way of controlling my environment in a world that feels so uncontrollable. I know you don't have to tell me that. Jesus, do we have to analyze everything? Um, how annoying is it going to be if I keep doing that with my voice talking down to a whisper? Um, but yeah, so when I was moving my furniture around, which is a great song by the Hanson family, I might add. That is handsome, like what a handsome fella. Not as in Hanson, like Hanson Brothers, the hockey movie, um, which are the only Hanson Brothers I care about. Well, and the Canadian punk rock band. Anyway, um, bum 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 bum. Moving furniture around by the Hanson family is a great song. So while I was moving furniture around, I heard some commotion outside, and I looked outside and I saw what looked like a smashed laptop in the parking lot, but I didn't see anything else. And I'm like, all right. And then I kept moving whatever I was moving and shaking, because I'm a mover and a shaker when it comes to my own belongings. And then I heard some yelling and like a loud vehicle. And so then I looked outside again, and like some white guy with his tattoos and cap was like yelling at something, and he just kept backing up his pickup truck back and forth over an already smashed laptop. So I have no idea what was going on there. I just was like, this is the room that my cat gets to have. She gets to look at this now. I don't have to see it anymore because I've closed my blinds, and I sleep in the living room now because I've got a patio off of my bedroom. So yeah. And I also booked my flight to San Francisco and figured out my time frame there, which is going to be pretty short, um, like 3 days, 4 nights, something like that. I'm flying back like late at night, um, the day after the show. Um, so yeah, I actually took care of that, which is good to not procrastinate further on and have the prices go up. They'd already gone up $30 since I'd looked before. And it's going to be a pain in the butt coming back because there's no room for the only kind of carry-on luggage you're allowed to have. It has to be small enough to fit under the seat in front of you. That's it. That's all you can bring. One item that can fit on beneath the seat in front of you, or else you're gonna have to pay like $50 for a bag handling thing. So I don't know. I'm not gonna worry about that now. I mean, it's not terrible. I can always mail stuff back if I want to like come down with more than just one bag shoved under the seat in front of me. Because I know I have to bring at least one or two little treats to my friend that's hosting me, because that's what you do when a friend hosts you. You bring them a couple of treats, even if it is just something from your own personal collection, because you can't afford to go out and buy treats. And speaking of which, I've been paying attention to my budget very well. I've been checking in every single week, at least, if not more than once a week, on my checking account balance and my credit card balances. I'm like keeping all of that in line and paid off, and a little bit behind on utilities, but not bad behind, but just like breathing room behind. Who cares? Who cares about all this? I also read some books. I finished Dangerous Liaisons, the book about Simone de Beauvoir and Jean-Paul Sartre, which is really good and really depressing. And I read Bitch Doctrine, Essays for Dissenting Adults by Laurie Penny, which was excellent. I recommend looking up Laurie Penny. You can read a lot of her articles online if you don't have time to read books or money to go buy books and your library doesn't have them. She is somebody that you can follow on Twitter to find out when she's published an article, either in The Guardian or The Baffler or anywhere else. But Laurie Penny, I really recommend. You following her as a journalist, as a writer, as an activist, as a feminist, as an all around awesome human being, and fiercely smart for only 30 years old. That's right, only 30 years old. And then another book that I read was Why I Am Not a Feminist, a Feminist Manifesto by Jessa Crispin, which is also excellent. And that's a really quick read. That one, I'm flipping through it now. So many markings, so many markings. Can I touch you? So many lawsuits. Sorry, I'm I'm quoting the podcast. Will you accept this rose with Arden Marin? Who cares? So yeah, why I am not a feminist manifesto. That's only 151 pages. It's a pretty slim, quick read. Really, really, if you were ever wondered, like, hey, in a nutshell, what's Rose feminist thoughts? This would kind of be like a quick and easy. I was gonna say quick and dirty, but it's not dirty. A quick and easy guide. And then next, I'm planning on reading a biography of Simone Weil. I think that's how you pronounce her name. It's spelled Weil, but I think that's the French pronunciation that I keep seeing when I've been looking up YouTube videos of her. It even says in the title, it's an intellectual biography. She was a French intellectual, and she was also religious, like a religious philosopher, I guess you would say. And she starved herself to death in 1943 because that is how some people respond to Nazi occupation. There you go. Hey, America, how's your Charlottesville? How is your Charlottesville, Virginia? But the other thing that I did, I know I'm gonna talk about Charlottesville. You just hold tight there. Of course, whatever. Sorry. This is another episode where I apologize a lot. The other thing that I did in the past couple of weeks was get completely blindsided by a dental bill of an extra $1,000. Remember when I thought it was gonna be a really smart idea to get my teeth and all my health done and all that before I take a trip? Boy, it was necessary. Getting that tooth pulled, that was necessary. That was a choking hazard. And this abscess tooth that's getting a root canal, well, as the dentist said when he was drilling and cleaning it out, he's like, "Wow, you can really smell the infection here." Like I don't think I needed to hear that. I wasn't smelling anything. And then he said like, "Oh, it's a good thing we're taking care of this." Like, but that's how bad it is. I can smell the infection in your tooth. La la la. Gross. But here's the thing. I've been constantly surprised by how much everything costs because I only find out afterwards. Or, well, let me see. Here's how it works. So I got a quote for $1,900, and I thought, great, that's within my $2,000 credit limit that I have on this card that I don't have to worry about paying off until next year. And so that's fine, but it turns out that was only for the teeth cleaning and estimates for crown. In other words, it was all the stuff that the general dentist knew that he could bill for. And it also included 2 consultation fees. One consultation with the guy that was going to remove my tooth, another consultation with the guy that did the root canal, which those are also 2 separate dentists. Because what nobody explained to me until my third fucking procedure was that they have different people that specialize and do different things, fine, and so that's why they bill different ways. And so one specialist isn't going to know what the other specialist is going to charge. And I'm like, well, that's fine if anybody had told me any step of the way that this initial $1,900 treatment plan, when me and the general dentist talked about everything that needed to be done, including getting my tooth pulled and a root canal, at no time did he say, oh, this treatment plan of $1,900 does not include those 2 procedures. He never told me that. I asked for a complete treatment plan. This is what he gave me. So I thought what I had was a complete treatment plan. And so then after each consultation, so when I met with the consultation for the tooth removal, that's when I found out to get it removed, it would be like another $250. So fine, that was still within my budget, because the crown and all that stuff that was on the original plan, I haven't had those done yet. So that money hasn't been used for so whatever. And then I did the consultation for the root canal, and then I found out that that's almost $900. And that is a lot of money for anybody. But when your income is $13.75 a month, and did I mention that my rent is going to go up November 1st to $930? A $900 surprise is pretty fucking significant. And I didn't want to put any, anyway, I'm not even going to go into how I'm going to try to figure out how to pay for it. But that's what it blindsided me. I spent 2 days crying, trying to figure out, can I just not get this done? Can I avoid it? What can I do? Who can I complain to? Because I'm trapped. And it's a thing that fucks me up. If I go to somebody for help and I feel fucked over in the process, then it hurts twice as much than if I had just not tried to get help whatsoever. And so that's how the dental thing has been for me. Like, I've gone and tried to do the right thing. I've been very clear in my communication. Like, here's what my budget is. I need to know everything because I plan everything down to the fucking penny, and I'm blindsided because nobody told me. I already explained it. So that sucked. That killed me for a few days there, to the point where I called up. My appointment is on Wednesday, was on Wednesday, yesterday. Today's Thursday. My God. Okay, so I called and left a message over the weekend why I was canceling it, because I couldn't afford it. I can't, because once I get this done, I'm not going to have enough money on my Care credit card to get the crowns done and all the other stuff done that I thought that was on that quote unquote treatment plan that was given to me. Some of that stuff I'm not going to be able to afford to do anymore because of the root canal. And you can't just have a filling on a root canal indefinitely, because eventually you crack that filling and then you end up losing the whole tooth. That's why they put a crown on it. Well, I'm not going to be able to afford that crown. So why bother getting a root canal and a tooth that's going to break and be removed now? I mean, I just was spiraling all over the place. It sucked. So like I said, I left a message canceling. Then I got an email saying, please confirm your appointment. And I'm like, I guess they aren't bothering to acknowledge my voicemail. So I called and spoke to somebody there directly and vented everything. And they explained, well, nobody knows what the procedure is going to cost until the specialist meets with you and does the assessment. And I'm like, okay, I understand that because you're telling me that now. But when I said I need a full treatment plan and I was given a treatment plan of X amount of dollars, nobody told me that was an incomplete treatment plan. You guys kept me in the dark. And then now I'm stuck having to get everything done here because I've already started here. So I feel trapped and blindsided, manipulated, exploited, miserable, like I don't trust you, like I hate this situation. I mean, I just put everything out there. It's like, I'm not mad at you personally, but this is how the situation has affected me. This is my response to it. It's now become my worst dental experience. The care has been great. I'm in no pain. All of that's been great. But the experience has been the worst because you know what? Every other dentist that I've seen has been able to tell me how much things are going to cost in the initial visit, and then go through and cherry pick the priorities and then leave out the stuff that maybe I can't afford right away. Somehow every other dentist has been able to do that except for Gentle Dental. Okay, Jesus. This is another reason why I haven't recorded, because who wants to hear that? So I went in yesterday. Oh, one more thing. I will complain about Gentle Dental one more time. It's like they didn't even fucking they wouldn't hear or listen to the fact that I'm fucking poor. I was really clear about what my credit limit is. I was really clear that I'm on disability and fixed income and how low that is, and really clear about what my disability is. And so, you know, getting blindsided is going to, like anybody having a $900 surprise charge, which is now, it's like you said, it's going to be at least $1,000 total of more than what I thought it was going to be. Anybody being surprised by that is going to have a bad reaction to it. I'm going to have a worse reaction to it. Hooray, lucky me. But when I'm in there, so I'm in there getting the woman who checked who did my teeth cleaning. That was $700 fucking dollars. That was unnecessary. When she looked at them real quick before I had the one tooth removed, she commented on, she was like recommending some $50 water pick thing or something or another that they conveniently sell there in their office. If I decided, that was a good idea, like she'd really recommend one. And so I explained again, I'm on a fixed income and my rent has just gone up. I don't have any wiggle room with money. And she's like, oh, I know what you mean. When I, first left my husband, I was living in a studio apartment and it was really tough. And I said, and you had a job, and so you had more income than I do. We're not talking about our living experiences. I'm telling you that I don't have an income. I don't have a job. And she's like, well, if you ever decide, like we do care, I'm like, Jesus, quit your fucking sales pitch. And that's so went from that to then finding out, oh, by the way, it's going to cost another $900. And that's when it just all hit me of like feeling like I just been reamed. And that as excellent as the quality of the actual dental care by the dentist has been, the billing practices and sales practices, it's like a fucking used car salesmanship. It's just fucking terrible. So anyway, I had my root canal yesterday. You could smell the infection. Yep. And I have got to go back in 2 weeks to see if, quote unquote, this white pimple or spot or something has gone away. I have to take an antibiotic. Well, he's actually given me like enough refills to take on my trip with me. It looks like I might have some problem with my gum. I don't know. Looks like I'm probably going to have more financial hardship with my mouth in the future. That's all I can say. That's all I can guess. Maybe I've got mouth cancer. Maybe I'm going to die and I don't have to worry about everything else in the world that's going on. Maybe all this is like good news. Like, hey, you've got mouth cancer. You've got 6 months to live. Okay, good. Now I know exactly what I'm working with. Let me go make the most of it. I don't know. Maybe not so bad. I don't. Okay. So yeah. So I had my root canal. I might have mouth cancer. That's been my couple of weeks. Oh, and then Charlottesville. I guess. Yeah. I probably would be. Yeah. Charlottesville. That's actually like when I wrote most of this episode was last weekend. All that little 2-week catch up, that big 30-hour waste of time, I kind of just threw together this morning because I after the weekend and building up to my dentist appointment and venting my wrath and dealing with them, it just wiped me out too much to do a podcast or much of anything. So yeah. Let's talk about last weekend. Okay, sure. Okay, so last Friday I went out for a big long walk around a neighborhood that I lived in back in 2001. Yeah. Um, so I went walking. That's the Brooklyn neighborhood for those that care. So I was like walking around and around, and I saw, as I was on part of my loop, I saw the marquee for the Aladdin Theater, which also has the tavern next door, the Lamplighter or Lamplight, whatever. So I saw on the marquee that the next day there was going to be a free comedy brunch. And it's the same place where Spike and I went and saw comedy last year. And so I was like, oh, cool. For like free on Saturday. That's tomorrow. It's the weather. Like the heat had finally broken. That was part of why I went for a big, huge, like 6 mile walk on Friday. Because it's like, oh my God, it's actually comfortable enough to go do that. And so Saturday, Spike and I were gonna go to the free comedy thing. Like we got, like I messaged him. He's like, "Yeah, it's cool." Like, okay, let's go. That's exactly how it went. Not really. Um, and I knew about the rally going on in Charlottesville. Um, Charlottesville is about, I don't know, an hour or so away from where I lived in Richmond, Virginia. Most recently between 2010 and 2014. And when I lived in Richmond, like we made trips down to Charlottesville quite a few times. I saw Built to Spill play live down there. I feel like I went to see some other show down there too, but I don't know. But so it's a town that I am very well familiar with. Because it's also a place I had visited when I lived there, lived in Virginia before. Because hey, I'm from Virginia, and so I knew about the rally going on there because some of the same people involved, some of the white supremacists and neo Nazis involved in that rally, have been here in Portland, and they have other rallies planned because hey, fuckapalooza. So I was watching YouTube while I was getting ready to go for the comedy show. I was actually watching it live on YouTube while I was getting ready for the free comedy brunch thing, and it just and what was interesting, like this one channel that streams live things like this, Ruptly, Ruptly, I think. Who cares? They just stream it, like they're not doing any voiceover commentary. They're not doing anything. They're just streaming you and showing you like exactly what's going on, and they try to always be where like in the middle of showing both the white supremacists as well as those showing protesting the white supremacists. So they're always kind of like right there in the middle of everything, and it just looked like the internet had exploded all over the streets of Charlottesville. Like the whole like alt right gamer gators, 4chan, Google employees who write memos about why women can't do jobs in the tech industry. It's like they had just gone from the internet all over the streets, all with their future hacking goodness. That's the thing that I always keep in mind with these guys. Like they are all packing guns, and actually the night before they had packed torches, because I had seen some of the footage of their really scary rally the night before. And then Sunday night, I ended up watching this thing that Vice put on, which you probably all know about by now. If you don't, just Google Vice Charlottesville, or I mean, look it up on YouTube. Watch the episode. Be afraid. Hello, America. I'm terrified. So anyway, like I watched what I watched on YouTube while I was getting ready to go, and then while I was at the bus stop waiting, I got the alert on my phone that the governor in Virginia had called a state of emergency because, well, you have a bunch of white supremacists with AK-47s. That can be kind of scary, and that's what I knew up to that point, and that was like at about 10:30 or 11 or so, because the comedy show was starting at noon, and I was gonna get there fucking early as shit to score a perfect booth and eat my food and read my book before Spike showed up and the show started. Like I like to, that's my jam, man. Get there early and enjoy my solo time. So so yeah, I was like I said, I was at the same tavern where we saw comedy last year. Last year's show was Bree Pruitt was hosting it, and Amy Miller came back to town to do a set, and she's like that. Like it's a pretty high bar. This show started like an hour late. I guess they were just waiting for people to show up. Like Spike and I were, because like Spike got there a little bit before noon to order food and eat as well, and we just kept waiting for like other people to show up. And it's like, well, no wonder they're not starting yet because there was like no one here. And then like a few friends kind of started straggling in, but it wasn't like when we went last year, it was packed. But this I guess was their soft opening because these are new hosts that are taking it over, and they kept joking about being their soft boiled opening. But yeah, and the other thing is, Spike will always, like, whoever we're gonna go see comedy wise, like he did this for the Bridgetown, and he did this when he went to brunch last year, and he did this time too. He'll always like look for the comedians on YouTube and like watch their stuff on YouTube, whereas I go to everything trying to know as little as possible, unless it's a comedian that I'm already really into. Then of course I've already gone down their wormhole. But this is my first time seeing anybody, then I want to judge them like on their performance in that moment, and I don't want to know too much about them ahead of time, kind of thing. So and yeah, and the thing about hosting comedy shows, man, it just seems like you really have to have like a hyper sales pitch muscle, or like just that's what it is. Like it's just because you're selling the fact that you're there on a Saturday afternoon, and it's really empty. And the only people that were there, like I think the only non-friends there were Spike and I. Everybody else that eventually trickled in like knew somebody that was performing, because they had like, I think like half a dozen different comedians, at least six different people. So yeah, so the hosts are just trying to like whip everybody's enthusiasm up, and everybody's there is like, we're just here just because our friends are making us come here, so it's not just them performing to each other. So that was kind of weird and awkward, and and they're hyper selling themselves. It's just hosting comedy shows, that just does not look like fun. It's just I don't know. Like I said, it was a pretty high bar with Bree Pruitt hosting last year, and I shouldn't shit on this because this is their first time. But it was just, and again, Charlottesville on my mind. It was just weird. So so let me see. Oh yeah, the other thing with it being like a brunch show, it means people, like at least two comedians there kind of tried to do crowd work, which did not go over very well for most people, because like some of the people called on like did not want to be called on at all. One other woman was fine being called on. Spike ended up being called on, and I could tell that he was like very apprehensive about it. I ended up being called on by this one comedian asking like what your first job was. And I actually was wrong when I said my first job. I said ice cream parlor because I don't know why I just blurted that out. Really my first job was working a German delicatessen. Ice cream parlor was my third job. Let's see. I had the German delicatessen, and I worked part time but then I worked and then I quit, and then I worked part time at Up Against the Wall and part time as the elevator operator. I think that was next, and then it was the ice cream parlor, Swenson's, or maybe Swenson's. Oh well. Anyway, I blurted out ice cream parlor, which turned out to be the right thing to yell out because that was what the comedian's whole bit was going to be about, was his job at an ice cream parlor, which unfortunately took a homophobic turn. Uh, yeah, you don't need to make jokes about scooping ice cream and thinking that the guy's coming in for, well, because like his premise was he's a black comedian, and so his premise was like when these two black guys came into the ice cream parlor, like I guess they looked kind of tough, and so his coworker like wanted him to wait on them, because his coworker was white, so he was like, hey black guy, you wait on these tough looking black guys was the premise. Only the tough looking black guys really turned out to be gay, and so then it got to be awkward when they were like, I want 2 scoops with nuts and I want your sauce all over it, and just all that kind of like, let's talk in a lispy voice and make sexual innuendos about ice cream toppings. Like, I don't know. It fell really flat. So I was sorry that if only I had said German delicatessen, especially Charlottesville. Um, just it would have been so much more timely with all the swastikas going on. Maybe that's why subconsciously I did not just spew forth German delicatessen, because then it just would have turned into a whole shitstorm. Although honestly, I can't imagine that there was anybody else at the comedy show that had been watching the news before they left, because who watches news on a Saturday morning? Anyway, one of the comedians that I did really, really like, and I'm going to spell her name out as if anybody's still listening to this long rambling shitstorm, and I'm sorry, Caitlin Warehouser. Caitlin, and then last name Weierhuser. I think that's my handwriting. Weierhuser. She's an awesome butch comedian. She did this whole bit about having butch privilege, i.e., she doesn't get catcalled. Of course. I mean, fuck. I don't even have, like, I don't look butch at all. But I can tell that I've gotten so much less harassment since I changed my hair to a more neutral, less vibrant red color. It's more like a brownish red color. And I've gained my weight back. And so I'm left alone a lot more, which is awesome. But I don't physically feel great. But her whole thing on butch privilege and how she deals with catcalling, I ended up watching some more YouTube stuff this morning, which I really recommend. Watch all of her sets at Helium Comedy Club. She's really fucking awesome. And then she also did a bit about the terminology of gender fluid and how gross that sounds. And like she would just rather be called gender moist. And of course, I thought of you, Sanchez, whenever I get moist. And she was talking about like what kind of drink gender fluid would be and blah blah blah. But she was the bee's knees. She was my favorite, my absolute favorite comedian of the set. And she was I think she was the last one. Yeah, but she's opening up for Jen Kirkman, which of course I can't afford to go to. Too bad, boohoo. And then Spike had invited me to join him afterwards to go see a Timbers game. That is a thing that he does. Timbers is our soccer team. For those who might also give zero fucks about sports, that is who they are. And he goes and watches their games with my ex, who I will call Roy. And that's how Spike and I know each other, is because he and Roy used to work together. I've mentioned this before. I don't know why I'm mentioning it again. And so when I invited Spike to the comedy show, he's like, yeah, and then afterwards, do you want to go to the Timbers game? And I didn't really respond. And so then it was like, here we are, like we'd gone to this show and it had been a fine time. And it was still like really pleasant weather outside for walking. And so I was like, yeah, sure. I'll, like, where are you meeting him? Like, I'll at least walk over there and then decide which bus I'm going to take home or what I'm going to do with the rest of my day. And, and here's the thing, when he goes to Timbers games, like to go watch some on the TV at some sports bar or another, like Spike doesn't drink at all. He's like me. He doesn't drink. And half the time he'll make plans with Roy and like Roy will cancel at the last minute. And at this point, Spike was like, yeah, like Roy hasn't actually canceled. And I said, well, did you tell him that I might be showing up? And he's like, oh, I don't know, I can't remember. And here's the thing that I've thought back on with my friendship with Spike. I never bring up Roy. I never, because he's not in my life, so I don't care. Um, but he still sees him sometimes for Timbers games, and up until a few months ago was still working with him until Roy got fired. And so like every time we hang out together, Spike brings up my ex. And I guess I never really thought about, does that mean that I'm gonna end up running into my ex on a day when I look awesome? Apparently that's, yeah. So, oh, I know. Yeah, yeah. It's just that that moment when you run into your ex and you see they've gained more weight than you have. Like that's an awesome moment because that's kind of what happened. Um, I decided it's a beautiful day. Oh shit, the bar's right here. This place called Beer Mongers, which isn't. It's more of it's less of a bar and more of a beer distribution place where people sit around and watch TV. It's like it's weird. I can't describe it and make it sound okay, but it wasn't gross like a bar, and it wasn't bro cephas. It wasn't all the things that it sounds like it would be. It was actually like a comfortable environment. And I like hanging out with Spike, and it was like a nice day. So I was like, fine, like we'll go ahead and go in. And because maybe Roy won't even show up. And it's like, oh no, there he was. Here we are walking up. I am walking up. This is an ex-boyfriend of mine that I have not seen since 2004. Hey, that's what happened in the past 2 weeks. Um, So yeah, he has really gained weight. He really loves beer to the point where he has beer apps and knows different brewers, and he's just yeah, he's one of those beer snobby people. He still has this big giant dread bun of massive hair. Um, and I gotta say, if I have to run into an ex of mine, I'm glad I did it on a day when I looked fucking awesome because I was wearing one of my cute vintage dresses because it's cotton and baggy and exceedingly comfortable. I just look adorable while wearing it, of course. And my hair was on point, even though it's a boring color. And even my mascara was on point. It wasn't all gloppy and thick like can sometimes happen when it's hot and disgusting in the world. Like I was like looking and feeling good. So it was a good time to we don't always get to run into our exes that way. Sometimes you just try not to run into your exes. And that was the thing that I explained to Spike as we were walking over there. Like, here's why I haven't been interested in ever being friends with Roy. And I told him about when I overdosed and Roy didn't call an ambulance. He went to go get people at a cafe instead. I won't go down that road right now. I think I've already talked about it. And if I haven't, who cares? So yeah, so it was when the three of us were sitting there at a table, the two of us drinking our sodas and Roy drinking his beer. I did enjoy some free beer samples, like little tiny tasty cups of this, that, and the other thing that some local brewer was there promoting. But yeah, it's like while we were there, because I know Roy is also you know, pays attention to the news and politically minded, like I mentioned, Charlottesville, and that's when he told me about the terrorist who drove his car and killed a young woman. That's how I found out about it. Yeah, he offered to pull it up on his phone to show me the video, and I just looked at him like, you clearly don't know me at all if you think that I would want to look at a video of somebody getting killed. Thank you. I guess this might be why we haven't talked to each other for 13 years. Jesus Christ. Okay. He looked real Burl Ivesy too, like because he's gained all this weight. He has like the big dreads, but he has this like huge beard. And so I just started instantly making jokes about Burl Ives and Metamucil and being and having regular bowel movements. Like those were my opening lines on an ex of mine that I haven't seen since we broke up while in London and Paris together. Hey, regular bowel movements. How's it going? Anyway, like I said, this is all over the place because it's been hard for me to even get to the point of recording this. I'm sorry. So yeah, so me and Roy, Burl Ives, we're catching up. Uh, I mentioned the fact that I'm not on meds anymore, but I'm on disability, and he knew that one of the meds that I had taken helped with my with the fact that my hands cramp and seize up and spasm, which is still a problem when I use my muscles for certain things. And he asked, like, well, since you're off your meds, like, can you still do your artwork that you like to do? And I pointed out that calling anything I do artwork is exceedingly generous. But what he was talking about is the collage work that I've done and still do sometimes. Sorry, my throat is gross. And I was like, yeah, I can still, do that. I just have to really pay attention to like how I use my hand muscles and this, that, and the other thing. And like vacuuming is something that really sets them off like that. Like I know if I have to vacuum my apartment, my hands are probably going to be fucked for the rest of the day for doing, anything without them hurting. And and it's weird. His first response was, "Well, just get somebody else to do it for you." And I'm like, is that just, okay, I'm going to sound like my usual shitty asshole self. But is that just how all white guys think? Well, just, if you have a job you don't want to do, you just get somebody else to do it for you? And I just look at him as how do you think I can afford to pay? Like, I can't, who would I get to vacuum my floors? Like, I don't know why I'm fixating on that. But yeah, I just looked at him like get someone to vacuum. Like I can't afford that. And he goes, well, get a friend to do it. And I'm like, I couldn't ask a friend to vacuum my floors. Like in my head, I'm thinking that's something that a significant other might do, or a family member might do. But you're not just going to ask one of your friends, hey, can you vacuum my floor for me? And he's like, well, like you can do trade off, like like they vacuum your floor and you do something. It's like, what would I do for them? Like I just kept looking like you're the most preposterous Burl Lives dread-headed motherfucker in the world. What are you talking about? And he's like, well, I'd vacuum your floor. And I'm like, oh man. It's like first Lurch a couple of months ago offered to flip my eggs, and now this person wants to vacuum my floor. No, thank you. No, thank you. That's no, thank you. And so let's see what else. I mentioned the fact that I was going back to Paris again for my third time, like a cunt. Look, I'm poor. I don't have much to brag about right now. I ran into an ex that I haven't seen in fucking 14 years, 13 years, whatever. And he hasn't been back or hasn't even gone out of the country in all that time. So I felt, I felt pretty fancy pants about myself then and there. Because isn't that how it is when you run into an ex? You always want to. It's like high school reunions, which I've never gone to, because it's a whole big comparison thing. And I compare myself to the rest of the world automatically all the time, anywhere where I always come out dead last. So I don't really need to like go to things or invite situations where I'm going to like compare where I am with another person. But when you are confronted with your ex watching a Timbers game with your comedy buddy, then that's where it goes. You're kind of comparing notes and stations in life, as it were. He is in a relationship, I think, still. I don't know. I didn't ask about that. That is something Spike has mentioned before because it's confusing to him, apparently. He's lost his job, which again, Roy didn't talk about. That's all something that Spike has told me. because Spike likes to bring him up a lot, I guess. I don't, weird. Um, what Roy did say, though, is that he's gone back to college at the age of 48, I guess, 49. He's going back to college for a 3 years bachelor's master's program in some kind of architectural engineering, urban planning, design, I don't know, something. He's taking calculus right now. He likes math and science. So yeah, so he's back in college. I'm gonna guess that it's because, hey, taking out student loans is a great way to not have to work full time. And so he's currently working part-time rolling sushi. That's what he's doing. He's making sushi rolls. And and he has a chance at another job managing inventory at the university for something or another, which is similar to other work that he's done in the past. But he really likes this sushi job because he was saying that he really, like it's really great to be able to like work in the service industry again. And I just looked at him and I said, well, if it's a choice, it can seem really great, but for people who have no choice but to work in the customer service industry, speaking as one who did it for almost 20 years, I'm going to tell you, no, it's not a fucking delight. It's and that's when Roy said, you're right, I'm being elitist. And I'm like, I'm not calling you elitist. I never used that word. It's just you're getting to do this as a like, hey, I get to do this fun customer service adventure while I'm also going to college pursuing a bachelor's master's degree. Whereas a lot of his other coworkers, this is the best that they can hope for. So don't, yeah, I'm an asshole. Um, Charlottesville. So yeah, so I found out about the whole vehicular terrorist activity there while a soccer game was playing from my ex, because that's the world we live in now. And I could have watched it on his phone if I'd wanted to. The same phone that he was logging in some beer he tried, because apparently if you log in a certain number of things, you get this little badge that he showed me on his phone. And I'm just like, this is who you are now? You care about beer badges on your phone? Yeah, okay. I know. I know I sound like an asshole. But beer badges? It's this 21st century just isn't for me. So when I got home, I watched the news on Saturday, like whatever else I could find on YouTube. And and Sunday I was watching live footage of peace activists gathering all around the country from different cities that were speaking or singing hymns and giving speeches and prayers and this, that, and the other thing. But this live footage wasn't put out by Rupley. This was put out by somebody who talks over and gives commentary, and it was something called Trumpet News. And so you just see this whole wave of people that just look like they've you know come out of a church or a shopping mall. It's like grandmas and parents and kids, and it just looks like this huge, like, wholesome environment. um no screaming, no yelling, no weapons, no Nazi flags, just a bunch of people that probably enjoy Garrison Keeler a little too much. Maybe that's how kooky, wild, and crazy they get. And this Trumpet News narrator, while the camera was panning on all these people singing a hymn, was saying shit like, look at them, they're ready to riot and bring more chaos, they're brainwashed, they're out of control. And in the meantime, it's just a bunch of people singing hymns and talking about peace. Like it wasn't Antifa, it was nothing. It was just, but this guy, that's what he's seeing. He's seeing people that are out of control and ready to riot at any minute, that they're looking, that's what he's saying. They're looking, there they are, looking for trouble. And it's like, these are grandparents, these are parents, these are little kids, these are college students. These are people who are scared, who are showing up saying like, well, maybe if we're all together, we don't have to be so scared. And that's how this guy is seeing it, because he's so angry that they're not for Trump, that the only thing he can see them is the enemy. And it's like the cognitive dissonance in that moment just, I mean, because I'd already watched the footage of all the guys with the torches screaming, Jews will not replace us, Jews will not replace us. I'd already seen all that screaming. I'd seen the fighting on the streets on Saturday. I saw the footage of the car ramming into the other car and the bodies flying. I ended up seeing that on the news. I saw all of that vitriol. I saw so many guns. I saw all of that. And then the next day, there's just all these people around the country coming together in peace, just holding hands, crying, singing. And the only way this, I have to call him a fanatic, because his view is so delusional that he's seeing this group of just peaceful people standing there singing and praying as looking for trouble and about to start a riot. There's no voices being raised, but that's how he's narrating it. That's the point he's driving home to his minions, his fanboys, his neo-Nazi supporters. It's fucking insane. And then I saw the press conference that was the next day of the from the right-wing neo-Nazi white supremacist organizer. And he was shouted down, and he was surrounded by cameras, and people were just shouting him down like they were trying to silence him. He was there trying to explain himself, like basically saying like, well, we just love the white race. And he was being shouted down, and supposedly he was punched at the podium. I didn't see that, but I did see the footage where he was tackled into the bushes by a woman. I will admit that did my heart proud. I don't like to think in terms of us and them, but of all people to tackle him, I'm glad it was a woman. And I'm going to say something really horrible now, as if I haven't said, I don't know if I've said horrible things before. In terms of getting white America to realize how fucked up racism is in this country and what a serious threat the white supremacists have been growing, because they've been stockpiling guns like crazy under Obama, because they were so afraid that he was going to take away their guns. They were so afraid of the black president. And the hate crimes have been spiking. And last summer was just black man after black man after black man, and some women getting killed by the cops, and then the police getting off without any punishment whatsoever. It took a white woman getting killed for white America to have rallies all around the country trying to come together in peace, love, and harmony. They weren't doing that last summer. They were leaving that up to the Black Lives Matter. They were leaving that up to the African American community. I'm not saying white people weren't involved and didn't help and blah, 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 but it was still seen as a Black Lives Matter thing. But now that a pretty white girl got killed, more people are waking up, which is the best way that change is going to happen. But it is exceedingly fucked up that it has to be a pretty white girl to get people riled up enough looking for trouble to gather around the country and pray and sing hymns. Because of course I wouldn't have wanted anybody to die. But I'm realistic enough to know that if it had been a black person killed, the outpouring and the response would have been much different. But nobody likes seeing a pretty white girl killed. That's just how fucked up we are as a society, as a humanity. Black children go missing every day. Black children are killed every day. But it's the pretty white girls that are on Dateline and 2020 and 48 Hours and that make the news and that get the Amber Alerts and blah, blah, blah. That's the reality of the situation. But it's the weird part of racism that we can't even talk about because there's a bigger, uglier part of it, except it's all ugly and systemic and linked together. So yeah, so Sunday I walked 2 miles round trip to go to the dispensary, get some weed because I fucking needed it. And the guy there was so nice. He gave me a free pre-roll, which was a ton, and a pint of Ben and Jerry's ice cream because I've been doing lots of emo eating. And I read a hit piece about the pretty young white woman that was killed. I read a hit piece by a white supremacist. I'm not going to mention the website because I don't, whatever, who cares? Nobody's listening at this point anyway. But one of the takeaways, and it was all critical, of course, how this woman deserved it. She was a fat slut. Basically, it's the gist of it. She's a fat slut. Probably had an abortion. That's one reason she deserved it. But one of the big problems with her is that at the age of 32, and as a white woman, she hasn't had any kids yet, which makes her a race traitor, because that's what white women are basically good for, is for making more white babies. So needless to say, in a white supremacist world, I would be considered an enemy, because not only have I never had children, I had my tubes tied to make sure I never had children. What a horrible white woman I am. And I'm daring to live alone. I'm not interested in men. I'm not interested in any relationships. I'm not interested in any of that stuff, which makes me a traitor to my gender. And I felt that way in the past, but it takes a whole new tone now. I mean, I know it sounds stupid, but I heard tires squealing on Sunday when I was walking to the dispensary, and my car like squealed as tires pulling out from a stop sign. It made me fucking jump. And of course, today, like I said this morning, I was delayed recording this. It's the selfish takeaway. I was delayed in recording this. I was fixated on watching the Barcelona footage because again we have another vehicular terrorist attack. Because vehicular terrorism is really the easiest way to go about it. And as somebody who is a pedestrian, that makes me extra nervous. So much more nervous than people flying buildings into planes. The whole people using their car as weapons on the regular now, because it's going to become more and more regular because it's so easy to do. And there's so many people who are just right on the border there with their mental health issues. It's shitty. Since I made the notes on Charlottesville, and going to the comedy club and running into my ex and all that stuff, Trump has continued to be Trump. 1 step forward, 500 steps backwards. I know I keep having these like long pauses. I should hit the pause button instead of just the long pauses. I forgot to mention when I was on my way to the comedy thing on Saturday, I was walking to the bus stop. I saw a giant pickup truck drive by with a big old flag flying proud, and it was a flag that was really a combination of three flags: a Confederate flag, of course, "Don't Tread on Me" flag, and an American flag. And I'm like, I guess he was really disappointed that he couldn't be in Charlottesville that day, so he was just flying that shit proud here. And it just, I mean, man, being worried about Guam was such a relief compared to this right now. I really, can we bring back the North Korea Guam problem again? No, no, we're gonna have Trump equating Robert E. Lee with Jefferson in Washington because he, okay. And let's just say, good on you, Baltimore, for removing your statues in the middle of the night and protecting your city. Like, it's something they voted on. They realized it could cause a real shitstorm for their citizens' safety if they did it during the day, so they took it out at night. Good for them. And other cities doing the same. Because here's the thing: the shit that happened in Charlottesville. The guy that drove the car was from Ohio, Kentucky first, and then he'd moved to Ohio. Most of the people that were there were from out of state. Not that there aren't a bunch of Virginia assholes too. There are. But they're going to keep having more of these rallies. There's some scheduled for this coming weekend in other parts of the country. I'm obviously concerned about my friends in Richmond, Virginia, because there's a fuck ton of Civil War statues there on Monument Avenue. And my ex and I were talking, not my ex Roy, but my ex that I was married to, because we do talk on the phone from time to time. It's weird. We're like weird cousins. That's kind of our relationship. Our relationship is like a weird cousins. Um, so I've totally lost my train of thought. Oh, so yeah, he and I were talking about it. Because I talked to him on Sunday too. And he mentioned, well, we both talked about how weird it is. Like, so far, none of that shit has happened in Richmond yet, where there's way more statues and where there have been like Confederate flag rallies and all that. And his theory is that all these white supremacists and neo Nazis would actually be too afraid to go to Richmond because Richmond, more than Charlottesville, which is predominantly white, and more than Berkeley, which I think is where one of their other rallies is going to be, and more than Portland, which they've recently rallied in. Richmond has a sizable population of color. And so the white supremacists might just be afraid. On the other hand, another white supremacist might look at it as like, let's go in and be provocative and provoke people of color into action, and then we can stand and point and say, look, we told you these people of color are terrible. Come join the white supremacists. I don't know. It just feels ugly. Feels ugly all the way around here. And I know that there's been some, like online, I think GoDaddy got rid of one of the domain names, and I think there's other online services that are kind of cracking down, just trying to shove these neo-Nazis further underground and further, quote unquote, onto the dark web or whatever, where they've been hovering all this time anyway. Like, that's not gonna really change anything. And in fact, it's going to make those that are really bitter with computer skills, hey, Google guy that wrote that memo, and apparently there's a lot of other men in Google that feel the same way. It's come out. They're all hackers, and information is a powerful and destructive thing, and when you get pissed enough, they could do really fucked up things with the wonderful world of the internet and hurting people on the wonderful world of the internet. it feels really ugly and dark right now, which I've said before. I've certainly complained a lot before. Why would this be any different? Um, and maybe I am just feeling more hyper vigilant or whatever the fuck you want to call it, because I'm also freaked out with this huge unexpected dental bill. Whatever, who cares? It's the world that has me fucking freaked out. Um, and I realize it's also impacted my ability to plan for my trips coming up, because part of me wonders if I'm even going to be able to make the trips. And part of me is also like, I'm planning for something that's going to cause me a lot of anxiety. So, of course, I'm going to have anxiety planning it. Um, because, Paris has also had its own incidences of vehicular terrorism. That's what I'm going to call it now. Vehicular terrorism. That makes terrorism seem less scary, just like domestic abuse isn't as bad as abuse, right? No. Okay. Um, but hey, at least like I'm not going to be going to high tourist areas in Paris because I've been to those before. Um, but all of this has been making it harder for me to get things done that I want to get done and that I need to get done. Um, that's how anxiety and depression work. Surprise! You all knew that. Um, the simplest thing can become the hardest thing. The thing that should take the least amount of time to do can take forever, or I just procrastinate and avoid it completely. Um, before I saw Spike to go to the comedy show, it had been 2 weeks since I'd seen another human being. It had been since Joy and I went out to Milwaukee together that I'd seen another human being. It just becomes really easy for me to shut down and get overwhelmed. Um, and I'm kind of getting to the point now of it getting close enough with my travel time that I can't afford to do that when it comes with my trip. So I kind of have to cut some things off. And like I said, I'm also just concerned about the world of the online. So I'm deleting my Twitter account. Who cares? Because I just don't want any weirdo who has seen tweets that I've liked impulsively when I've been high in the middle of the night, not thinking, whatever. I just don't want. I just want to be invisible. Not that anybody notices me anyway, but I don't even want to have to think about anybody noticing me. That's the way to put it. I don't even want to have to think about anybody noticing me. So I'm deleting my Twitter account that's associated with this podcast. Um, and I'm also going to take a break from recording. Um, Probably at least until the winter. Yeah, late autumn. Um, because I can only do so much, and even though this shouldn't seem like a big deal, everything is seeming like a big deal right now, which sucks. Because I'm about to have a really great chance to do some really awesome things, or at least have a good time. Um, but it's kind of like I have to like pick and choose like the minimal things. I mean, I haven't even fucking been working out. Like, who cares? Who cares? I'm not gonna sit here and like wah. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna take a break. And the other reason is I feel like all I'm doing is complaining about how tough my life is, and everybody's life is tough. So who gives a shit? It's not necessarily interesting. Um, and so I just want to think about if I do come back recording again, um, maybe just talk about stories from my past instead, which I've thought about doing. But the other reason why I haven't done that is because, like, I don't want to be stuck in my past. I'm trying to move forward. So, see, I have a lot to think about. And none of it's really all that important. The main thing that I'm thinking about now is survival, which I know sounds really melodramatic and bullshitty, but it doesn't feel melodramatic and bullshitty. Um, I was assaulted in March. Last month when I was walking back from a dentist appointment, I was followed and the guy was telling me about how he had a murder weapon in his hand and he could kill me any minute, bitch. That stuff takes a toll, and talking about it is helpful. So Sanchez, I'm sorry, you're still going to probably get some random audio recordings from me. Cuz we're friends, right? And that's how friends communicate, right? Audio updates about Big Brother. I don't know. The TV show, not the man. I love both, I guess. Um, but I just feel the need to kind of curl up, not physically, but I just need to kind of whatever blinds and curtains I can easily close while still interacting with the world. That's what I want to do right now, and that's what I did with one of my bedrooms here, and it's worked out very nicely because I've been able to open and utilize other windows that I wasn't using before. So that's kind of how I'm going to look, taking a little bit of a break from recording for a while. I just kind of need to close down one area so I can kind of open up some others and make some headway there. Because unfortunately, there are so many things that I could do, but I cannot do them all. Yeah, no, I guess it ends with a whimper and not a bang, as my favorite band would say. This isn't really a whimper either. It's more of I'm wringing my hands. Yeah, maybe that is a whimper. But yeah. So I'm taking a break. Like I said, Sanchez, you're my friend. I'll still bother you randomly with audio bits from here and there. But I just kind of I feel safer by being quiet in public. And so that's what I'm going to do for a while. Be well, stay safe, blah blah.